Welcome everyone to the Quickly Develop Web Applications with the FastScala framework by David Antunes. David, we are glad you could join us today. So with no further delays, over to you, David.
Thank you so much. So, hi everyone. I'm David, and I'm going to talk about the FastScala framework. Okay. So I'm David. I've been a Scala developer since 2012. I founded scalaacademy.com, where I taught many people Scala. I worked both in big companies, startups, built a software as a service in Scala at PPT Samurai. That's a startup. Currently looking for my next position. And I would also like to give a special thanks to Kevin Htsu. He's the first contributor of the framework. He's a Scala hobbyist from Shanghai and works in complicated things for banks, as you can see there, anti-fraud, etc. business. Okay, so what are the goals of this web framework? I wanted it to be 100% Scala, so the code should all be based in Scala. Without needing to write JavaScript or TypeScript or anything to get your application running. It should be modular and reusable, so have modular components that you can reuse over time. It should work out of the box and with one code base for backend and frontend. So to be simple to install, to be simple to get up and running and not have very complicated workflows, and just be simple to install. Okay, so the logic here is going to be similar, if you know, to Vaadin. So Vaadin is a web framework, in this case for Java, okay? And what we want to achieve is a similar kind of flow. So to have components, and now you can just build up your websites. You can just build up your website and your application with all these components. So the logic is going to be, in the end, kind of similar to Vaadin. Okay, so there are similar frameworks. So the concepts that we are going to see here, they are going to be similar to, if you know, the LiftWeb framework for Scala. That's a framework from some years ago that's not so popular nowadays. And other frameworks that exist that are usually called the continuation-based web frameworks. In some functional languages, there are several languages which have this kind of frameworks. I would say that one of the big differences here is that with FastScala, it already includes many components. Okay, that's a difference here. So let's give here more or less an overview of the modules of this framework. So you have the core which sits here at the bottom. Okay. So this is the core of the framework. The framework is right now working with Jetty 12. Okay. Kevin actually ported from Jetty 11 to Jetty 12. Okay. And so this is the logic, the main logic of the framework is sitting here in the core. And now, see, here you have some utilities for dealing with databases. That's optional if you don't want to use this. So it's just a utility thing. You have here some things to deal with JSON. You have here things to deal with XML, Scala XML. So the core of the framework does not depend on Scala XML. If you want to use it, then you can just use this module. And we have here a big thing, which is the components. The components are like the modals, the buttons, the forms, the tables, etc., which are already built for you. You can build your own if you like, but there are many that are already built for you, and you can see them in the demo. So if you just want to see working code, there's the website, and we are going to see it later, and it has a demo. So I would say that these are the three main components. The core is the framework logic itself, the most important part. It sits on top of Jetty 12, but it could sit on top of other things, okay? This is just used to serve the web requests, the HTTP requests. The components, modals, buttons, forms, etc., and the demo, which demos the functionality of the components and all other things. Okay. Okay, so these components. What are the components that the framework already has built in inside? Well, not built in inside, but in this module, the components module. So modals of canvas, forms, tables, buttons, an integration with Ice Editor, JS3, shards, and much more things. So let's see here a small demo of that. So here we have the FastScala.com page. And here you are going to be able to see, okay, so several components, for example, buttons. Okay, so here you can see how to create this this codes. Okay, with the framework. So for example, bootstrap button, BS button, button secondary with a label, small button, etc. Okay, so how to change button sizes, etc. So this is type of component. Modals. How to create a modal. So here you have the codes. A new modal with the title, with the body contents, with the footer, etc. And you have a modal. Okay. Off canvas. Okay, so an off canvas like this. So how to create an off canvas like this? Okay. So off canvas dot start sample of canvas. Start means that that it shows on the left of the page, and on the right of the page, top on the top of the page, etc. Okay, etc. So off canvas forms, creating a form. Okay, creates a form. Form input types, many input types. Select fields, checkbox fields, tree state fields. Radio input fields and validation, different validations for the form. Input groups, so you can join inputs. So much of this comes from the Bootstrap framework. So this basically is using that. Okay, etc. Tables, simple tables, tables that you can sort, tables that are paginated. Tables where you can select the rows, tables where you can select the columns, and hide and show columns as you like. Okay, so all these things, the Ace editor, okay, charts, JS3, etc. So so all these are components, okay, of the framework. So this you can build your own, okay, but if you like, you can use these ones. Okay, now let's see. Okay, let's see how does this framework works and what is it built on top of. Okay, so what is the core idea of this framework? Okay, so the logic is to be able to reach this point where you are able to very easily, okay, everything with Scala code. So the goal is this: you just write Scala code, very simple, very easy code. Okay, and all the details of, in this case, the abstraction of JavaScript, etc. It's all abstracted away. You don't see that. You don't deal with that. You don't deal with the JavaScript. You are not writing TypeScript, etc. You're just writing Scala code with type safety, with classes, etc. in your Scala editor. Okay, and you are creating complex interactions. Okay. You are creating complex interactions there in the UI. Okay, so you very simply write Scala and you're creating complex things that work in the web. Okay, almost as if writing a desktop application. So how does this work in the background? Well, how is this possible? What's happening in the background? That's the point here. Okay, so what's happening in the background is the following. There are callbacks from the clients to the server using anonymous IDs. And then we build on top of this. So let's see exactly what this means. Okay. So we are going to have some we are going to have some anonymous, we are going to have callbacks that go from the client to the server when something happens in the client side. Okay, so let's see here. First example. Okay, basic example one. Here we have a very simple. So here we have a handler. So here we have the code that handles requests. We have that request, and if the request is for basic one, the page basic one, we just serve a very simple case here. We just serve a basic HTML page. Okay, and this says basic is example one. Okay, so let's see then what's happening. Let's see here a more complex one. Let's see what happens here with when we have interactions on the client side. So I can create a button which on click is going to run this callback. And so this is the most fundamental idea of the framework. Okay, so we have here this handler FS context, okay, which allows me to create these callbacks. And I say, okay, I want to create a callback when someone is going to call this callback. I'm going to print in the server clicked. Okay. If I click this is not going to do anything. Why? Because this is going to call a function in the server, okay, which is associated with these IDs, okay. In this case, it's the page ID and the function ID, okay. This is not going to work because I'm missing here some JavaScript to do this logic, okay. If we go here to example number 3, I add the JavaScript to implement this logic, okay. So when I click this logic runs, and on the server, right now we cannot see that, but on the server you would see a print called saying clicked, okay. And here, and now we can pass a value also to the server, okay. So here, in example 4, we have an input text, and I get the value from the input, and I say, okay, I want a callback, and I want a callback, and it's going to pass me the value that's there in this input. So I can put here hello world, click, and the codes, this returns JavaScript, and this returns the server has received your input, the input that it received, at the time in the server. And so I get the server received your input, hello world, at that time in the server. So this is the basic idea. Now you build on top of this. Okay, so how do you get from these very basic things? So this is the most important fundamental building block. You can create callbacks that go from the client. When something happens in the client, you click, you select, you change the input, you do anything in the client, it calls a function like this on the server. So you say, okay, when something happens, I want a callback. This callback is going to execute this code in the server. And now you return from the server the code, the next code that's going to run in the client. So then you can get to, okay, I want to create a model, and on the model, on click in the model, it's going to open a form or open an off canvas, and when you are in the off canvas, you have a form, and when the user submits the form, you close the off canvas and you open a model, etc., etc., etc. So everything is kind of controlled everything is kind of controlled from the Scala code in the server side. Okay, so you can have all these complicated components, okay, all this complex UI, okay, without writing any JavaScript. I mean, to create the component, you need to write the JavaScript, okay, but everything is abstracted away when you usually just use the components, and you don't need to think about any JavaScript. Of course, in the background, there's JavaScript. Okay, so this is what we saw. Callbacks with arguments. Now, other things that we can do with the framework. Also creating a file download callback. So it's a very similar logic, but before the logic was, okay, when someone runs this JavaScript, just do this function on the run this function on the server side. Okay. Now with the file download callback, it's the same idea, but now instead of running a function, is return this file. So now that's the file to be returned if anyone tries to download. Okay. Also the same thing for file upload. Okay. Same logic, but now we have here a function that instead of being some JavaScript, returning the next JavaScript to run, or instead of returning the file to be downloaded, it receives the files to be uploaded in this case. Anonymous page, same thing, but now instead of the function returning the next JavaScript to run, or the file to download, or receiving the files to upload, now it's now you can have a function that returns an anonymous page. So okay, when you go to this anonymous URL, you call the function, and now it gives you an anonymous. It's not anonymous. It gives you the page for that anonymous URL. Okay, so same logic, but just applied to anonymous URLs. So here we have an example. Okay, we can have session variables. They are stored in the session, as usual in other web frameworks. And we can have WebSockets. Okay, so then if you go to the page, you can even here see some server-side push. So through the WebSockets, etc., you send things to the WebSockets to the page. So this uses the Jetty implementation of WebSockets, basically. Okay, so now on top of this, you build more and more and more advanced functionalities. Okay, so what do you have in the framework? You have sessions, the pages in the sessions, you have anonymous pages, these callbacks, the file download, the file upload, so these things that we have been seeing. Okay, won't the number of these callbacks that we are creating, won't they grow and grow and grow and grow? So you need to store the callback in the server. Won't this grow indefinitely? Okay, one of the ways to deal with this is we discard callbacks that are not necessary anymore. So this context is that where we are creating the callbacks, they are in a hierarchical structure. So this is a small demo here that you can see on the website of this. And here on the top, you can see how many callbacks this page has. Right now it has 23. So for example, when I click here to select a row, this is a callback that's running on the server. So each time I do this, it's running on the server. So this is associated with a specific, a random number on the server. And if I do this, if I enable this debug, you can see that, for example, if I select everything, all the callbacks associated with the HTML that I don't need anymore are deleted, okay? And all the other ones, all the ones that are not needed anymore and all their children that are associated with HTML that's deleted are sent to the trash. Okay, garbage collection. If the memory is low in availability, I delete the pages, the callbacks with the oldest activity. There's a keep alive that's sent automatically and marks that page not to be deleted. Okay, this we already talked about. Where is this appropriate to use? If you want very fast development speeds, if the user is paying because your server is keeping these callbacks. So if you have like an online magazine website, this is not appropriate, okay? And we have complex functionality. So if you have an online UUID generated page, this is not the appropriate framework. If you have a complex business, complex software as a service application, this is the right framework, okay? It's secure by default. If you don't have these random IDs, callbacks, okay, then you cannot call the functions. So if the button is not there, if the ID is not there, you cannot call it. You must be careful with load balancing because the server, the person must be always connected to the same server. So you need to be careful with that when doing load balancing. You can check some monitoring here in the websites. You can check there in the demo. So connecting with Grafana to have metrics, etc. You have here an example. Okay, I invite you to see the demo. And I don't think we have any time for questions, but now there's the hangout in the conference, and I'll be more than happy to answer all your questions there, yeah, after the talk. So thank you so much, and thank you for coming.